Headquartered in Milwaukee, Hal Leonard Corporation is the world's largest music print publisher. Keith Mardak, the chairman and CEO, is my special guest next on I Remember. Hi, I'm Jim Peck. Welcome to I Remember. Joining me tonight is Keith Mardak, the chairman and CEO of Hal Leonard Corporation, a music publishing giant. This is the story of Hal Leonard, and it begins with three guys in a dance band more than 70 years ago. Take a look.
The Hal Leonard Publishing Company was founded by two brothers and a friend in 1947. Harold Hal Edstrom and Everett Leonard Edstrom, along with Roger Busticker, were musicians who performed with a dance band in the 1930s. The company began with arrangements of popular music, mimeographed and sold to schools. With the licensing rights to the 1949 hit I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now, the company was on its way. In the 50s, they developed the pointer system for organ, followed by other instruction materials. Recordings of music arrangements were sent out as a new promotional tool in the mid-1960s. In 1970, Don Mardak, Art Jensen, and Keith Mardak, here with office manager Pat Maltra, started Learning Unlimited, a company that became a division of Hal Leonard. As the division grew, Keith Mardak became general manager for the entire company. In 1981, Polygram, which owned Chapel Music, bought interest in the company. In 1985, Keith Mardak and a management team bought Hal Leonard from the original founders and from Polygram. Today, Keith Mardak is the chairman and CEO, and Larry Morton is the president. The world's largest print music publisher, Hal Leonard represents hundreds of artists, from Irving Berlin to Adele. Robert Johnson, Sinatra, the Beatles, Johnny Cash, and the music of Motown are all included. In music education, Hal Leonard has helped millions learn to play and has the best-selling guitar method worldwide. Hal Leonard also publishes and distributes books related to the performing arts and entertainment industry. Launched in 1997, Sheet Music Direct was the first of nearly 20 websites, including Essential Elements Interactive for music teachers, students, and parents. In 2010, Keith Mardak was honored by the Songwriters Hall of Fame, receiving the Abe Ullman Publisher Award. A strong community supporter, Keith has served on the board of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Milwaukee since 1994. The Mardak Center for Administration and Training is a result of his support. Keith also joined with Bishop Sedgwick Daniels to open the Daniels Mardak Club. Headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Hal Leonard also has a large manufacturing and distribution center in Winona, Minnesota, where the company was founded. Additional offices are in Nashville, New Jersey, and abroad in Australia, the United Kingdom, and Europe.
Now, how did a company located in Milwaukee get the rights to the Beatles music?
It's a long story.
We've got time.
Well, it's just, one of the many acts or artists that we represent. Mm-hmm. And actually, we got them through Sony ATV. As you know, Paul McCartney and John Lennon wrote most of the songs. Mm-hmm. And they were published by a company called ATV in England. It was a television network, actually. And it got sold a couple times until finally Paul tried to buy it. And he got outbid by his buddy, Michael Jackson. Michael paid $47 million for the catalog.
Chump change for Michael.
Chump change. And Paul, I think, bid 43. And Michael held it for a long time until finally Sony came along and they wanted to buy it from him. And instead of buying it from him, they merged their operation with his operation. So he got $125 million for basically half the catalog, because and he got half of Sony's catalog. Mm-hmm. And today it's a giant.
So did you get to meet Paul? Did you deal with him?
I met Paul 3 times. I knew his father-in-law very well. Linda was married to Paul. Linda's father was Lee Eastman. He was a lawyer in New York who represented in the 30s dance bands. And then he moved into art, and he started to represent artists like Matisse and de Kooning and Picasso.
Oh, those guys.
All those guys.
Yeah.
And then he started to collect songs, buy songs. And as Paul got involved with Linda, Lee was advising Paul on his investments and got him to buy catalogs.
Wow.
So today Paul owns, outright, he owns Hello Dolly, Mame, a lot of Broadway things. The Music Man, Guys and Dolls.
Now, when you deal with it, do you have to call him Sir Paul? Seriously. Mr. McCartney, Paul.
Yeah, but I haven't talked to him for about 10 years. So, but the times I was with him, no, it was very informal. He's a very nice guy.
Is he easy to talk to, easy to meet?
Yeah, he's very interested in music. His uncle sang in a barbershop quartet, so he was inquiring about that, if we had any music for him, so I sent him some samples of stuff. And
Well, you've got music for everybody, and I wrote down some of the things that you own, from Adele, Aerosmith, Beatles, of course, Johnny Cash, Eric Clapton, Elvis Presley, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Andrew Lloyd Webber, George Gershwin, Leonard Bernstein, Irving Berlin, Stevie Wonder. I mean, it goes on, and it's just...
You're missing some.
Well, yes, there are about another couple of hundred in there. But how do you buy a song, or how do you buy a whole bunch of somebody's whole works?
Well, I've always said it's a deal a day. Something comes along virtually almost every day.
Really?
And we get the call. We get the call from the artist's management, from the lawyers that represent the artists. Most things come to us through big publishing companies like Sony ATV. Mm-hmm. They have Taylor Swift and many, many other artists. Through Universal, we get Adele. Through EMI, we get Rihanna. And so...
Why do they want to sell their music to you? I would think if the Beatles or Adele or whoever might happen to be has the music, they hang on to it, they make money whenever it's played.
They do. They keep it from that standpoint. We simply print. They don't sell it to us. We rent it, basically.
I see.
We rent it for a term, usually a 5-year term, and we renew those terms over and over and over if we do a good job. But if you look back at what publishing really was, if you go back to the early masters, Brahms, Mozart, Beethoven all had publishers. And the publishers printed their scores and sold them on their behalf to orchestras so the music could be performed. In Mozart's case, he did a lot of piano teaching pieces, and so those were sold to teachers. And nothing changed until 1905. Think about that.
What happened then?
Congress passed a new law. The player piano came along, and piano manufacturers were manufacturing piano rolls, and the publishers felt that they should get paid for the songs that they owned that were on those rolls, and Congress agreed. And so they enacted the Mechanical Copyright Act of 1905, which provided for the payment of 2 cents per piano roll on a statutory basis. So at a compulsory license, so you had a license to manufacture, and he had to pay you. Mm-hmm. And then that law flipped to Edison's phonogram. Originally it was a cylinder,
sure,
and then it became a pancake, then it became a 78, and that 2-cent rate stayed all the way through 1976.
So in those years, every time somebody bought a record,
right,
somebody made 2 cents.
Right. And the publishers were still printing. And then in 1914, ASCAP was formed, which stands for the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. And I was on the board for 10 years, from 88 to 98, and served with a lot of interesting people like Morton Gould and songwriters like Hal David and Sammy Faye, Sammy Kahn, and so forth. But it was started in 1914 by songwriters, Irving Berlin, John Philip Sousa, and several others. And a law was passed again in 1914 that provided for the payment for the performance of a song. So if you were performing a song in public, whether for profit or not, you had to get a license. And it started in New York, and basically the establishments went on strike. They wouldn't play music. But soon they found their patrons wanted music, so they finally complied and signed the license and started to pay ASCAP. And ASCAP grew and grew and grew. It became very powerful and very big. They weren't the first performing rights society. There were several in Europe already. So they were just following what the Europeans had done.
So if, say, Frank Sinatra got up and sang a bunch of songs, somebody was there jotting this down, and he had to pay for all those songs that he sang?
Well, today it's all computerized, but back in the days there were surveys, there were people that listened to radio, sampling the country. Today it's still all based on how much a song is performed or how often a song is performed. Radio play gets into it, record sales gets into it.
Is it self-reported? In other words, the radio station does that, or do you still have people monitoring it?
The radio stations report it, but they may get audited, and
yeah.
So they comply.
I would think there's a lot of room, and I'm not talking chicanery, although there's room for that also, but just somebody forgets to write something down or make a note.
Well, today ASCAP takes in about $1.3 billion. They're a nonprofit, So, their overhead is paid for out of that. Then it all goes to the songwriters and the publishers on a yearly basis.
Wow.
Now, there's a competitor. It was started in 1947 called BMI.
I've heard of that.
And BMI recognized country music and rock and roll. ASCAP didn't want to lower itself to that. So they formed a society owned by the broadcasters. And today, they collect almost $1 billion.
Wow.
In the American way, we have another one called CSAC.
What's that?
It's an acronym that I can't give you the.
Okay.
It's a French acronym for something.
But what kind of music do they?
It's smaller. They recently signed Neil Diamond and Bob Dylan.
Oh,
So
that's not bad.
they have some power. So today, every radio station has to have a license with all three. Mm-hmm. Every television station. Every college and university pays.
Is it true that some years ago, Johnny Carson used to call the little old lady somewhere who bought Happy Birthday?
That's true.
Is that a true story?
She didn't buy it. They wrote it.
She wrote it?
Well, there's two sisters. They were school teachers.
Really?
And there was a song called Good Morning to You with the same melody.
Good morning to you. Happy birthday. Oh.
But there's a difference. So if you just do Good Morning to You, that's 5 notes. Happy Birthday to You is 6 notes. Based on that and the lyric, it became a copyright in 1934. And today owned by Warner Brothers.
But I remember, and this may be apocryphal then, that nobody had paid anything on this, and all of a sudden people started getting charged. You'd be sitting at the Tonight Show and saying happy birthday to whoever, Phyllis Diller, and bingo, you owe me.
It wouldn't get paid specifically for that one performance. Again, it would be picked up in the survey and it would get its share of the total pot.
I see.
So,
And there's something I'm going to say, it's as common as the Star Spangled Banner. And I don't think it is, but again, it was a song, whether it was America the Beautiful or My Country 'Tis of Thee or whatever, but somebody got a hold of that and was driving folks crazy because they suddenly had to pay for it. Do these things ever run out?
sure, all copyrights expire.
How long? I mean, if you're talking about people like Irving Berlin and Rodgers and Hammerstein. And
Irving Berlin's one of the only songwriters that outlived a song.
Really?
Yeah. Alexander's Ragtime Band became public domain while he was still alive. But the law has changed so many times. It was originally 2 28-year concurrent terms. You had 28 and then you renew for 28.
Okay.
Oh, and then it gets complex. It changed to, in 76, it changed to 75 years after the death of the last living composer. That got extended to 95 years now after the death of the last living composer, and that's basically what it is today, 95 years.
Come back to how you get paid. I would think the whole downloading and digitalization of music must have driven people like you crazy for a while.
Totally. There's so many illegal sites that really hurt us. Kids today think everything's free.
Yeah.
And we have legitimate legal sites. We have a site called sheetmusicdirect.com where you can download many, hundreds of songs, thousands of songs, many. We have a site called Band Music Direct, Choral Music Direct, Orchestra Music Direct, so the educators can download their music if they prefer not to, buy it in the traditional way. But take the Star Spangled Banner. We actually make money on that every year.
Do you?
From the performance side. We own the definitive band arrangement. So if you're watching football, a college will typically play our arrangement, and that gets picked up in the survey.
But you get paid if Whitney Houston sings it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
No, it's got to be our arrangement.
Your arrangement, all right.
It's got to be, a band has to play our arrangement, which is copyright protected.
It is the best rendition of the Star Spangled Banner I ever heard was Toscanini with the NBC Orchestra, I think during the Second World War. Is that what you've got, or is it?
No, we have something created by one of our associated arrangers.
Well, whenever I go to watch the Badgers and we stand up and do the Star Spangled Banner, I'll think of you, saying, "Okay, Jim, thank you, Jim." And
well, when you go to a Badger game and you see the band in the fifth quarter doing the Budweiser song, that's because of us.
Really?
Yeah.
You got that one too?
No, we don't. We know the fellow who wrote all those commercials, a guy named Steve Carman, and went to him one day and said, "We'd like to do a marching band arrangement of the Bud commercial." He said, "It's great. What are you going to do with it?" So we're going to try to get Budweiser to buy a copy for every university in the country. And so we presented it to Budweiser. They loved it. They bought it. They mailed everybody a copy, and that's how it hooked on with Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah, amazing.
I thought we were the only ones who did that.
And then we did the Schlitz commercial, the Pabst commercial, Coca-Cola, 7-Up.
Who was Hal Leonard?
Well, there were two gentlemen, brothers, and a friend, Roger Busticker. Hal or Harold Edstrom. His brother was Everett Leonard Edstrom.
Really? So there was no Hal Leonard?
Well, in a sense there was. So they were mates in college, and they formed a band in college called the Campus Kings, and they were performing at social events and around the area of Winona, Minnesota. And they graduated from college and wanted to become a pro band. And their father wouldn't let them use the name Edstrom, so they made up the name of Hal from Harold's first name and Leonard from Ev's middle name. And Ev basically became Hal Leonard, never changed his name legally, but he was the band director. So they'd always say, and here's Hal Leonard.
That's funny. I always thought there was somewhere in there was some guy that you had kicked out. A little old guy saying, but I'm Hal Leonard.
Roger never got his name in lights, but he was an equal partner.
How did you come into this? Were you a musician to begin with?
Well, when I was a little kid, my brother played the accordion, older brother, and I wanted to play too. So when I was 8, I started accordion lessons. And along the way, I wanted to quit. My mother wouldn't let me. And so I played all the way through high school.
Had you heard all those jokes about accordions?
Absolutely. So I never wanted to tell anybody in high school that I played the accordion, but I stayed with it and ended up teaching the accordion at a certain point, and then I switched to organ, and I worked for a guy named Zeb Billings.
I remember that name very well. So you grew up in Milwaukee?
Yes.
Whereabouts?
34th and Lincoln.
Really?
Yeah, South Side. I went to U.S. Grant, then Walker Junior High School, then Pulaski.
How about that? Why does the accordion get such a rap? It's a beautiful instrument. And yet, I remember the worst joke I ever heard about it, and I told this to Frankie Yankovic. I said, the definition of a gentleman is someone who knows how to play the accordion and doesn't. And it's a terrible thing to say, because it is a beautiful instrument.
Well, I don't play it anymore. So.
You ever get into the ukulele or anything like that?
Oh, well, right now the ukulele is a bonanza for us.
Seriously?
It's become so popular. We're putting out ukulele books on everybody and everything.
I had no idea it had come back.
We did ukulele with AC/DC and Stevie Wonder and...
I'm sorry, with AC/DC and the ukulele?
Yeah, absolutely.
Metallica. Last person I knew to play ukulele was Arthur Godfrey.
Metallica for ukulele.
No.
Yeah. It started with basically two things. A song named Hey Soul Sister.
Yeah.
If you listen to that song, you'll hear a very important ukulele part.
Really?
And then the big heavy Hawaiian guy.
Don Ho.
No.
No, Don Ho wasn't heavy.
Izzy, I can't think of his name, but he did the beautiful arrangement of Over the Rainbow.
Mm.
And that was on YouTube, and it really hooked on. And then the third incident is a guy named Jake Shimabukura.
Easy for you to say.
He's an incredible player. And if you go on YouTube and just punch in Jake ukulele, he'll come up and listen to him. He's phenomenal. So we publish books with him. And it's just become, there's ukulele clubs, societies, all over the country. It's just an amazing phenomenon.
I cut you off. I interrupted we're getting off into the ukulele, but you were talking about you would start out playing an accordion, and then you got away from the accordion. You didn't want to tell anybody that you played it. But how did that get into music publishing?
I switched over to teaching organ. Accordion paid $2 a half hour. Organ paid $3 a half hour.
Well, makes sense.
Big raise. And
so you were teaching organ.
Yeah, I was working for Zeb. And one day, by accident, he got into the publishing business, and he needed someone that was very inexpensive. And I was tired of my day job. I was a draftsman. Really? Yeah.
Well, you've got a heck of a background.
I worked for Ellis Chalmers and Harnischrager.
No kidding, as a draftsman.
Yeah. In any event, I didn't enjoy it. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be in music if I could. And I talked to Zeb, and he said, "How much do you make a month?" I said, $550. He said, "Well, I'll pay you $450."
Well, there's an offer you can't refuse.
So I couldn't refuse it. I started at $450 a month.
Seriously?
1965. And we started with basically nothing. And by the end of, or mid-70, our sales were up to about $3.5 million. And my brother was there and another fellow named Art Jensen. We were all in the company, and we decided to leave and go off on our own. And so we shopped for an angel, and we found the Hal Leonard guys willing to support us. We were competitors. Mm-hmm. So they financially supported us, and we started a little outfit here in town called Learning Unlimited. And Learning Unlimited eventually became bigger than Hal Leonard.
Why? But just jump back for a second. Why would they want to support you if even though you were smaller, but you're nonetheless competing with them?
Because their publishing operation was going nowhere. We were killing them.
Really?
Yeah. And they had done a lot of other side deals and investments. They were big into real estate, and they had a music franchise. They even started a telephone company when no one else started telephone companies.
Wow.
So they weren't paying attention to their publishing company, and they needed young blood. Mm-hmm. And we were the young blood.
And you weren't smart enough to get a raise when you started, so that worked out well.
There you go. So eventually, the three of us became shareholders in Hal Leonard, and the rest is history.
Mm-hmm. What, you said you were beating them. What does it take to beat the big publisher?
Well, in this case, the organ industry was very big at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hal Leonard guys had a book packaged in every single organ made by all manufacturers. It was called the Pointer System.
What is that?
Well, they came up with a way of making the organ easy to play. An organ has a sustained tone. If you hold a key, it'll play forever. So if you take your index finger on your left hand and point to C, and take your thumb and move it 2 keys over to the right, and your little finger 3 keys to the left, you have a C chord. And if and you press the corresponding pedal.
I could do that.
And then you just move to F and point, and to G and point, and you have 3 chords, and you can play many songs. And that's why the manufacturers were agog over that method, because it helped.
Mm-hmm. And then, so where did you come in?
Well, I was a competitor and with Zeb Billings, and so we devised other methods to supplant the Pointer System virtually with every manufacturer. So we knocked them out, and we were fierce competitors. And when we left Zeb and joined Hal Leonard, we had a job of knocking Zeb Billings products out of every bench and get a Hal Leonard product back in.
You're an entrepreneur and a hired gun, and you forced poor old Hal out.
Well, they were of age at the time. So.
Right, yes. When you look at this, I mentioned some of the names before that you represent in publishing, and there's virtually everybody in music. What are a couple of the ones that you think maybe you're most proud of, or that you think are the best?
In terms of artists?
Yes.
Well, I mean the Beatles.
Okay, well, I would think so, yeah.
I love the Beatles, and their music is so accessible today for every form of music, from band or orchestral, choir, to any instrument. So we just publish tons and tons of Beatles music. Another real good situation for us is Disney. We've represented Disney since 1973, so when all those wonderful films come out, we're the exclusive publisher to do The Lion King or whatever else you might.
Wow.
Yeah. So that gets to be pretty big stuff. And then things like Les Miserables. We have a personal direct deal with the guys that wrote the show. And now they did the film, so we get to republish Les Miserables all over again. And you know, the film is huge, and the music's huge, and it's a bonanza for us.
One of the things that you always hear, if you're listening to any music for any length of time, you're going to hear Memories from Cats.
Yep.
Is that one of yours?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, of course.
And we do all of his shows. But I should mention, about half of our business is the song side. The other half is education. So we have the #1 selling guitar method called the Hal Leonard Guitar Method. We have the #1 selling band method called Essential Elements for Band. We have the #1 string method called Essential Elements for Strings. And on and on and on. We have the #1 piano method called the Faber Piano Method. And we sell lots and lots of copies of those book ones of all those methods.
So you're in music publishing, you're in education publishing. What else?
Well, we have a magazine we publish for schools. We reach about 4 million kids with each issue. We have an office in New York where we publish books that are all entertainment-related, cinematography, drama, acting, biographies. We're very large in the Christian world. We represent most of the Christian publishers.
Really?
Yeah. We have an office in Nashville with 36 people that only sell to churches, all of the Christian music that we're involved with. We're also very large in classical music. So we have the wonderful old Schirmer catalog.
Oh, I remember that very well.
And Boozy and Hawks, and Ricordi, Schott, many, many classical publishers.
Is there something that you're not in that you would like to be in?
From a music standpoint, we got it pretty covered.
What about publishing books? Do you ever do that?
It's a whole different market.
Is it?
We publish books, but they're music-related, entertainment-related.
But if I wrote a novel, I couldn't come over to your house and...
That's not us.
That's not you. Why not?
Oh, it's a totally different, it's a different book buyer to start with. A book buyer is not going to talk to you over one book. We have a large catalog of entertainment-related books, so we talk to that buyer. But he won't talk to us about a novel that you wrote. It's just a whole different process.
Are there other groups? Are there, I'm thinking of things like the Beatles or U2 that you don't have that you would like to have?
Oh, sure. We don't have Bruce Springsteen. We don't have Led Zeppelin. We don't have Grateful Dead, America, Rush.
Well, I'm not going to continue this in that case.
So there's lots and lots of, you can't have it all. Much as you'd like, you can't have it all.
But you've got to have, I mean, I can tell from the way you're talking about the fact that you do want it all, that you would like to get them. How would you go about getting a Bruce Springsteen?
Well, his deal will come up with our competitor. We'll usually get a call from the lawyer. They usually get us to make a ridiculous bid to run up the bid of our competitor.
Yep.
And we do it so the competitor pays more. And Bruce has been loyal to our competitor, so he just stays there. You know, he likes
Dag nabbit.
Yeah, he likes what they do, and they do a good job. They're a fine publisher.
What is your competitor, or what are your competitors?
Well, the biggest one is called Alfred Publications. They're out of California. They're like us. They're an educational publication publisher. They have a guitar method and a band method. Ours is bigger. But
I sit here and talk to you, and I think of you running this whole thing, but you must have a ton of people that you employ.
we have about 500 people around the world, about 145 in Milwaukee. Our president, Larry Morton, is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I get to spend the winter in Phoenix while he's working in Milwaukee.
That's a good. Well, that's why you worked hard all those years.
Yeah, we have a couple hundred people up in Winona, Minnesota, where we have a 450,000 square foot facility where we print, warehouse, ship, distribute. It's our
So
back.
you do actually the printing and shipping yourself?
We print about 65% of our products.
Wow.
We produce roughly on average 15 new products a day.
Seriously?
Yeah, about 3,700 a year. We currently have about 200,000 in our warehouse, different titles. And we have about a couple thousand go out of print every year. So we keep growing by virtue of, we put out more than we end.
Wow. And any of the family involved in it?
No.
No.
No, I have 3 children, but they've all gone in different directions, and
They went straight, huh?
they went straight.
But your wife is involved, isn't she?
Yes, she is. She is involved in the business affairs area, all the legal side, the documents that need to be done for every thing we publish, basically. Paperwork's always required.
Well, I know Bruce Springsteen and Led Zeppelin watch this show religiously.
That's good.
So, come on in and give good old Hal Leonard a shot. Keith Mardak, what a pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for being with us. I hope we'll see you next time as we continue to remember. Thank you.
Thank you.